Are the Democrats underestimating the Tea Party movement?
I don't know. I think it would be a mistake. I think what we should say is those Tea Partiers, 20% of them, by the way, say they'd vote for Democrats if there were no Tea Party candidates on the ballot. Those, in their purest form, the Tea Partiers are saying, I've been let down by big business and big government. I've been let down because the big banks were bailed out, but nobody helped me. And the government that bailed them out, they're doing fine. They all have a job, make their mortgage payments, have health care, send their kids to college. I want reform in both. But the funders of the Tea Party movement tend to be pretty far-right extremists who want, their goal is to destroy the power of government to mediate the power of corporations. And I don't really think that is a sustainable position. My advice for the Democrats is don't play games. Make this about the American people. Tell them what we need to do and what you would do about it, and ask them if they really think you're more likely to do it than your opponent. I think we should just play it straight.
Meg Whitman, the Republican candidate for governor of California, is facing a political firestorm after explosive allegations that she knowingly employed an illegal immigrant. During a news conference with high-profile lawyer Gloria Allred yesterday, Whitman's former housekeeper claimed the candidate was alerted about her immigration status in 2003, but did not fire her until last year. In a statement, Whitman, who has specifically campaigned to hold those employing illegal immigrants responsible, dismissed the claim as politically motivated and insisted she only found out about her housekeeper's status last year, at which point Whitman says she immediately fired the maid.
We have found a surprising consistency in the wave of scandals that have hit top-of-the-ticket big-name Republican candidates in the last few days. It is an odd but noticeable commonality. Almost every politician out there preaches about the idea of personal responsibility, right? It's time to bring personal responsibility back to America. Time to bring personal responsibility back to Washington. That term, personal responsibility, is a focus group approved tagline for all sorts of politicians. But it's the Republican Party that's really essentially tried to make personal responsibility its brand of late.
I believe this nation is on the cusp of welcoming in a period of personal responsibility, a responsibility era. An era which says each of us are responsible for the decisions we make in life.
Pure, unadulterated, generic politics right there. President Bush speaking to a Republican Party gathering in 2002. 8 years later, the Republican Party still trying to claim that whole personal responsibility thing as their party's brand.
Leaders overreach because the rules allow them to. Legislators duck their responsibilities because the rules help them to. There's no accountability. There are no consequences.
No accountability, no consequences. It's time for some personal responsibility. Well, personal responsibility as a Republican brand, it's in a run for its life right now. Republican Meg Whitman in California, for example. Why is Meg Whitman in trouble right now? Because a big part of her political platform, what she has been campaigning on for months now, is her plan to crack down on illegal immigrants. Specifically, workplaces suspected of employing undocumented workers. Any employer employing an illegal immigrant will be slapped with fines and will have their business licenses suspended under a Meg Whitman administration. Meg Whitman inveighing against people who employ illegal immigrants. That got sort of awkward this week when an illegal immigrant who Meg Whitman employed for 9 years as her housekeeper came out to say, not only did Meg Whitman treat me poorly as an employee, but she knew I was here in the country illegally. Ms. Whitman's response to that allegation was to deny it. She said she didn't know the woman was an illegal immigrant. Cue the high-priced lawyer unveiling the giant blow-up of the letter from the federal government that warned Meg Whitman that her maid appeared to be undocumented, complete with Meg Whitman's husband's signature on it.
Do you have any reason to believe that that is not your husband's signature?
You know, I haven't seen it, but I suspect it probably is his signature, and I suspect, you know, what he said is he doesn't remember ever receiving this letter.
I suspect what he doesn't remember. Who, me? Couldn't be. Blame my husband. I mean, it was his handwriting on that letter, not mine. In fact, I barely even know the guy, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, I've got to go.
Let's move on. Speaking of crazy, to Meg Whitman, fighting to keep alive in a $119 million quest to be the next governor of California. Go get him, Meg. Amid charges she knowingly hired an illegal immigrant to be her housekeeper. Whitman says she did not learn the woman's status until last year and is willing to take a lie detector test to prove it.
Would you
take a polygraph test to...
Absolutely. I would. I cannot tell you. We were stunned when Nikki told us that she was illegal.
Whitman calling the whole thing a smear attack orchestrated by her Democratic opponent, Jerry Brown. How many times are we going to watch a politician, Republican, Democrat, I don't care, particularly somebody who's aggressive and saying, we got to get the illegals out of here. The illegals are taking our jobs. How can we live with these illegals? Except for the fact, can somebody please get me a bunch of illegals to take care of my children, wash my dishes, mow the lawn, and make sure that the house looks nice when I come home?
On the policy, she's got a problem either way. If she knew, and it's not clear that she did, to be fair, but if she knew, then she's got a character question here. But if she didn't know, this is someone who as recently as last year was walking around the state saying we got to prosecute quote-unquote illegals. Yeah. And if she didn't know, that tells us a lot about the economy in California and the economy in a lot of places, which is even if you don't know and you don't do the research, these are economies from the household to the companies that run on this labor.
In California, the Republican candidate for governor, Meg Whitman, is being hit with personal and politically charged allegations. Our national political correspondent Jessica Yellen is here. She's working the story for us, and it involves her former housekeeper. These are serious allegations this woman is making.
That's right. Just weeks before the campaign, the election, Wolf, Meg Whitman's former housekeeper of 9 years came forward today saying she was fired by Meg Whitman when she told her that she's been in the country illegally. Nikki Diaz-Santillan wept when she was in a press conference saying that Whitman knew about this all along.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. I felt like she was throwing me away like a piece of garbage. I don't feel like I deserve to be treated this way. She treated me as if I was not a human being.
She appeared with celebrity attorney Gloria Allred, who is filing a complaint alleging that Whitman took advantage of Santillan. The main thing here is immigration is a major issue in the California race.
So how is this going to affect the campaign?
Well, two things. First of all, the new CNN Time Magazine poll being released today shows that Jerry Brown, the Democratic candidate there, is 9 points ahead of Meg Whitman in our latest polling. He is polling at 52% to Meg Whitman's 43%.
Now let's get to some ugly allegations right now rocking the California governor's race. Republican candidate Meg Whitman spoke out today about the revelation that her former housekeeper was in the United States illegally. Whitman is denying Nikki Diaz-Santillan's allegation that she knew for years or should have known about her status as an undocumented worker. We also heard once again from Santillan and her famous lawyer, Gloria Allred. They say they have a smoking gun. Our national political correspondent Jessica Yellen is here working this story for us. Jessica, what exactly is Meg Whitman saying today to try to strengthen her case?
Well, first, Wolf, she emphatically denies all the charges. Whitman denies that she mistreated Santillan. She denies that she knew Santillan was illegal until last year. And she has also been answering the question, well, why didn't she turn her in when she found out she was illegal? She answered that question repeatedly in a 45-minute press conference today.
Very fond of Nikki, and I didn't want to make an example of her. And it's not, an obligation of the employer to turn in illegal employees. And I, just said I'm not going to make an example of Nikki.
Now, clearly she's trying to show a compassionate side while also maintaining her tough on illegal immigration policy position. But bottom line, Wolf, this was Crisis PR 101. She took every question. She's been doing a series of interviews to try to put this behind her.
Gloria Allred, who's the lawyer for the housekeeper in question, she says that Whitman is not telling the truth.
That's right. First of all, Whitman appeared with her husband by her side, claiming that her family never received a letter from the Social Security Administration telling them that her former housekeeper's Social Security number was bad. But Gloria Allred, the celebrity attorney, held her own press conference and, in a dramatic fashion, produced what she said is a letter from the Social Security Administration to the Whitmans dated April 2003, and there is a handwritten note on the bottom of that letter. That handwritten note says, Nikki, please check this out. Well, Allred says that's the writing of Dr. Harsh, Whitman's husband, and she says this is the smoking gun letter. She says it basically proves that the family knew that their housekeeper was illegal, Wolf, and did nothing about it.
Illegal immigration has been a big issue in this campaign.
Absolutely. I mean, in California, illegal immigration might be the biggest issue after jobs. But another major issue in the race is just Latino outreach. That's because about 18% of the state's likely voters are Latinos. And Meg Whitman has been working very hard to woo those voters. So it really can't help to have video like this video we're showing behind me from yesterday's press conference, video of this playing. It's a former Latina employee, Wolf, saying Meg Whitman wasn't nice to me, just not what a candidate would want in the final days of the campaign.
Yeah.
Meg Whitman's California Republican candidate for governor is fending off new evidence that she knowingly employed an illegal immigrant housekeeper for nearly a decade. At a second news conference yesterday, high-profile lawyer Gloria Allred unveiled a 2003 letter from the Social Security Administration that she claims is proof Whitman and her husband are lying to the public.
With everyone, and you know, this fills that narrative. If you think about, okay, a billionaire CEO who's not even sure, if her housekeeper is legal or not, and then can't even keep track of paperwork that's coming in from the Social Security Administration, questioning that, that certainly plays to that narrative.
Well, former President Bill Clinton hitting the campaign trail a bit over the weekend, crisscrossing the Northeast, really, stumping for Democrats in 3 states. Look at this.
And, of course, they got the Wrestling Federation lady in Connecticut and the witchcraft lady in Delaware. And I tell you, so far they've gathered up about everybody for this Tea Party but the Mad Hatter. And Alice in Wonderland will give it to him, I think.
You know, I've been involved in politics and public life in one way or another for 4 decades. And during those 40 years, our country has voted 10 times for president. Democrats won only 3 of those times, and the man who won 2 of those elections is with us today. Tremendous progress during the 90s under a Democratic president, with a flourishing economy and our leadership for peace and security respected around the world. Just think how much more progress we could have made over the past 40 years if we'd had a Democratic president. Think about the lost opportunities of these past 7 years on the environment and the economy, on health care and civil rights, on education, foreign policy, and the Supreme Court. Imagine how far we could have come, how much we could have achieved if we had just had a Democrat in the White House. We cannot let this moment slip away. We have come too far and accomplished too much. Now the journey ahead will not be easy. Some will say we can't do it, that it's too hard, we're just not up to the task. But for as long as America has existed, it has been the American way to reject can't-do claims and to choose instead to stretch the boundaries of the possible through hard work, determination, and a pioneering spirit. This election is a turning point election, and it is critical that we all understand what our choice really is. Will we go forward together, or will we stall and slip backwards?
The choices you make in politics are like the choices you make in life. You look at the facts as best you can, and you make the best available choice.